Welcome, football fans. This is For the Love of Football, and this is the XFL Show. I'm Alan.
And I'm Bryant.
We're in the midst of awards season, and, well, today we're wearing our shades, calling defense, like Jerry Glanville up in here. This is episode 125, counting down the top defensive players of hashtag XFL 2020. And Bryant, I don't know about you, but I can't see a damn thing.
Alan, did you get a tan?
No, I'm taking these off because I can't see blue with these. These are killing me. But yes,
I didn't pay my light bill for a second there. That's
Jerry Glanville's a special kind of cat, and he called great defense with shades on. I could not do this show with shades on, so I took mine off, but I'm ready to talk about some great defensive players today, Bryant, and some XFL news. More players getting those NFL shots.
It's still awards season on the XFL show, Alan, so we're going to give out our defensive player of the year the way we like to do it, with some style, with a top 5 countdown. We'll do that a little bit later. We got some great news to talk about as well. A lot of signings happening for these XFL players, so a lot of things to get to today.
Yes, sir, and a lot of stuff for you to react to as well, and that's in a variety of ways. On social media at XFL Show, or you could call directly to the voicemail. That's the XFL Fan Line, 724-565-4XFL, and maybe we'll even get you on the show. Like earlier this week, we had our good friend Drew from St. Louis, a super fan of the Battlehawks, on, and today we're going to have another super fan on the show, but also a gatekeeper, I would say, of DC sports. If you're in the DC area, you've heard him for sure on 106.7 The Fan. Chad Dukes versus the world will be joining us, and we're going to take Chad Dukes on, talking about how he, Bryant, was the first ever person to get the crowd hype at Audi Field. Week 1, he had the shield up. He told everyone shields up on the PA. It was a whole deal. He set the tone for their season, where they ended up week 5. They were in first place in the East.
He spoke highly of that foam shield that the defenders passed out. Alan, didn't you get one of those?
You can't see it. It's right above my camera, but it's hanging high up on my wall for sure. That's one of the greatest fan giveaway items I've ever gotten at any event for sure.
But yeah, it was great talking to him. We'll get his perspective from the DC side. Also, thanks to Drew from this past show, taking the time to sit with us and chat about the St. Louis Battlehawks. That's available in the archives if you want to go check that out.
Absolutely, yeah. Check out that interview with Drew about St. Louis Battlehawk fandom. We're going to get into some DC Defenders fandom today. And also, that last show, of course, was the top offensive players countdown, Bryant. 5 of them, number 1 being the offensive player of the year according to this program. And we went with Cam Phillips. And you can re-listen to that entire episode if you missed it, or watch it on YouTube, or check out the blog on XFL.com. It's in a bunch of different forms, that episode, for you to take in and then critique. We've been hearing the critiques of our list, Bryant, and really the only thing I was hearing most of all was PJ instead of Cam, but like we made our argument for that. I think it's pretty solid. I don't need to go further into detail on that, but overall, I don't think people were too angry about the top 5 for offense, at least. We'll see what they say about defense here coming up, though.
The variety of ways that show is available is pretty awesome. We also have a tweet thread as well if you want to check that out, at XFL Show on Twitter. Go check that out. Give us your opinion, because we don't want the offense just to go away because we're talking about defense today. Let the discussions keep rolling. Anywhere you can type out your comments, or call the fan line, 724-565-4XFL.
So we got Big D coming up. We got defensive countdown. We're going to crown our defensive player of the year on this episode. We're going to get into some of the movement of XFL players getting NFL contracts and signing with some NFL teams to go into training camp this summer. And we'll also go into something fun that's going to be going down for the weekend online for all you people who love and are missing the bracket madness right now.
Games?
Not actual games. No, Brian. The only live sporting event you can watch is professional wrestling right now on planet Earth. But I mean, we got plenty of fun to have with the XFL when it comes to social media this weekend. We'll get into what's going on there. Before we get into all of it, though, reminder: the XFL app is out there for you to download for free, and it's very active. You could get this show on it. You can get the brackets we're going to be talking about. You could link directly to social media for your favorite team. It's all right there. If you download the official XFL app today, it is customizable, which is great. So if you're a Guardians fan, Guardians, right?
We never got the call, so we just go with what you feel like.
Guardians fan. Make it a Guardians geared XFL app. That's what's awesome about it. And it is free. That's the best part about it. XFL app, your source for everything XFL. Download it today for free. Okay, Brian, here we go. We have a lot of business to tend to on this show. First and foremost, I think we should take it to Chad Dukes versus the world. We're talking DC Defenders fandom. Now, setting this up real quick, Chad Dukes, big radio superstar in the D.C. area. If you live there, you've heard of him. He's awesome, and he is, I think, a quintessential D.C. fan. He holds it down, and as a Pittsburgher, I'm not a fan of the teams that he roots for, but I respect him. And we asked him to be on the show because he was there week 1, holding that shield up. They gave him the microphone, and he got the whole crowd. I was there, Bryant, to yell "Shields up" right before kickoff week 1 on the XFL. It was a magical moment. He was kind of the MC of all that, and really, I think, an influencer. And didn't have we're going to hear this interview. He doesn't really claim to take ownership of the beer snake, but I gotta believe that just his demeanor and his style, I feel like, facilitated what we eventually knew as the legendary beer snake.
We get into all that, what causes those fans to be as passionate as they are, and why he was so excited for the XFL to come. We even get into the Redskins discussion. A lot of people are, what their anger was towards the Redskins and why maybe they became the Defenders fans. We'll get into all that. You'll listen to here. It was a lot of fun talking to Chad, and he wasn't versus the world here. He was just versus us, I guess.
Oh, he joined us. It was 3 on the world in this interview you're about to hear. So we welcome Chad Dukes to This Is the XFL show here, because we're dinking and dunking around the league, and we want to know about all the XFL fandoms, and we've hit St. Louis. Let's talk some DC Defenders right here on This Is the XFL show. It's Chad Dukes from 106.7 The Fan in DC. Honored to have you on because you were the first ever person to wield that shield for the Defenders. How was that experience?
It's awesome. It's they did the whole Shields Up campaign, and before the game, they put the big jumbotron. You raised the shield, and they gave out all the foam shields for everybody in the stadium. We had a great crowd that day too. It was 19,000 people in that building, so it was full and it was loud, and they did a really good job with the shield. Like, it feels like you could be slugging that thing around like Midgard. It's good. I wanted to do a sword as well so I could bang the shield with the sword, but they said because the Battlehawks have a sword on their helmet, they didn't want to make a sword. So I'm trying to come up with some other medieval weapon of mayhem that we can use maybe next year.
Maybe.
Well, how about the snake? How about the beer snake?
Yeah,
can you use that as a weapon? Because that thing's...
Tell you what, man, people around here like to drink. They like to drink publicly. And I got to say, if the coronavirus thing, if they didn't shut those games down, those guys would still be doing that right there, even with everything going on right now. Those were nut jobs in that standing room only.
That was awesome. That section became iconic quickly around the league. Does that beer snake make you proud? You were one of the gatekeepers of DC sports. How'd that make you feel?
Yeah, it was good, man. Like, I'm a big XFL fan. I was a huge fan of the first league, and I was a San Francisco Demons fan because we didn't have a team here. And so when they announced, we never get teams in DC. We didn't get an Alliance team, the UFL, any of this stuff that's happened. Like, we never get teams. And when we do, the league folds the next year because we got an Arena Football League team, and there's only 4 teams. So getting an XFL, I was stoked. And Oliver Luck came on the show, and Eric Moses, the president. We had these guys on. Coach Pep, like, we had him on months ahead of time. Like, every time there was an announcement, like before the team had a name, like, I've got IDs from the head coach saying DC's XFL franchise because they wouldn't announce the Defenders. So yeah, it's a bummer the season ended when it did. I thought there was some real momentum. Certainly in DC there was. Those games were well attended. The crowds were loud. There was a real home field advantage. The Defenders were undefeated at home. So looking forward to season 2, and I think DC's going to be one of the bright spots for this league.
Oh, yeah,
well,
DC.
First place Defenders, Alan, if I might add.
They were first place. First place beating the Battlehawks.
The only thing that kind of stunk was that Cardale was he's great on the air. We had him on the show. He's just such a great, ambassador for the XFL. And then really had those road games just look like a completely different quarterback. And they make the switch. So, hopefully with some time to prepare, and a good camp and everything, he comes back and kind of is that emissary for the sport here locally, because I really think he can, be a superstar. And he's got the poise. He comes from Ohio State. I had no idea there were so many Ohio State fans in the Washington, D.C. area. That guy couldn't go anywhere without getting mobbed. But, they were in first place. It would have been a playoff team. I did see that on the XFL Twitter if the season would have ended. Hopefully it's something to build on.
Yeah, and hopefully Cardell, bounces back. He had that rough patch in the middle of the season, but Pep Hamilton, I think, was the perfect coach for that team, for the situation. He was doing a lot. It was just fun watching him coach. That was my favorite part of the league, Chad, was watching the sidelines and the coaches kind of play chess against one another. What stood out most about the XFL to you as a fan?
Well, just the, there were some patches where you're like, all right, there's going to be some growth there. But the quality of the football, you could tell immediately the alliance was so fresh. This felt better. It felt just like a better quality of the sport. Some of the rule changes, I thought the kickoffs were great, and people really embraced that. Some of the trickeration you could do with the 2 forward passes, it just translated well. And it was awesome to see, St. Louis has lost 2 NFL franchises, and then there were 30,000 people show up to root for their XFL for the Battlehawks, and you saw up in Seattle, all these different places where they really are embraced and people were taking to it. And I really think that a lot of football, mainstream NFL guys, were not giving it a fair shake. They weren't really getting the push they could have if there was fair coverage on the league as well. I love Pro Football Talk. I have Mike Florio on all the time, but it just felt like he was only reporting on the negative stuff when there's so many positive stories surrounding the league, and they were developing some superstars at the quarterback position. And that P.J. Walker deal, how great is that? I guarantee that guy's going to start a game for the Carolina Panthers this year. So there was a lot of positivity.
How good was he? He was amazing, and the ball was bouncing his way a little bit, but the guy was spectacular. I agree with you. He's going to Carolina, and he's going to be in the games this season. I have a feeling that guy just looked like way too talented to not be playing in the fall, right? And a few other players throughout this league. You saw a lot of guys that are going to really, I think, take that next step. Everyone's saying who's going to be the next Tommy Maddox, Chad. I think we're going to probably be seeing multiple versions of Tommy in the future with the XFL churning out these players.
I completely agree, and there's already been a couple of defenders that have made NFL rosters, and there's the talent was there. I thought the marketing was great. I thought I hope that New York, and I know as a media conglomerate, you want to be in New York, you want to be in Los Angeles, but I hope they look at some of these other markets and say, man, let's go to Tuscaloosa, let's go to Grand Rapids, let's go to places where there's these rabid football fan bases that don't have a professional team. I hope there's some of that in store if there's expansion or relocation, because I think there's a lot of potential there.
Well, there are other St. Louis's out there. There's only one St. Louis, but there are a lot of football-hungry towns. Bryant and I went to St. Louis. That town was nuts. DC's home atmosphere was amazing. And in year one, I think a lot of people were shocked, Bryant, at how some of those crowds were going bananas. But none of them compare to the Beer Snake, right? That's the consensus.
No tradition compared to the Beer Snake, maybe the Cacas, but that's it. Even being in LA a couple of times, it was 14,000, but it was a strong 14,000. It was interesting because they're all cheering for the same team, which you don't really see too often in LA football inside of a stadium. So that was kind of cool. I will say this, and I'll ask you, because you have the Redskins. Now, is your passion the same for the Redskins, or is it because of the anti-Redskins? What drove you to be such a huge DC Defenders fan?
Well, I was going to be one regardless. I'm a huge Redskins fan. I was actually born here and raised here. I come from 3 generations of Redskins fans, so that's not going to change for me. But, guys, there's not a lot of people like me anymore. A lot of people have abandoned this team, and this is a transient area, everybody's from someplace else. And I had several friends that were Eagles fans, Bears fans, and they're like, hey, I don't have to be yelled at when I go out by my friends. We're all going to root for the same team, and they all kind of banter together. Another thing is, I do think it's kind of a middle finger. The Redskins are in such a bad state, and their building is so terrible, and the fan experience is just really, really poor. And the location of the stadium's awful. What you have downtown with Audi Field is completely different. Like, you can take mass transportation there. It's easy to get in and out. It's a wonderful in-game experience. It's intimate. Every seat's a good seat. And then I think people maybe initially wanted to become Defenders fans as kind of a middle finger to the Washington Redskins. But then once they got there, I didn't know anybody that went out to a game that came away with anything other than just being completely impressed. Like, it was one of those things where if you can get them in the building and sell them on the atmosphere itself and the game day experience itself, sold the product. So, yeah, maybe it started with a little, anti-Redskin sentiment, which there's plenty of around here. But I think the product itself won most people over once they interacted with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the chance I've been saying of being the first fan of a team, I think, like you said, everyone gets to finally root for the same team together in places like DC and LA where, maybe everyone's rooting for some different NFL team. Being the first, setting up those traditions, Chad, and I know you're the voice for a lot of DC fans too, so I hope you took that to heart. You got to really put in place those traditions for the DC Defenders that are going to go on for years and generations to come.
No, you hope so. And I mean, there's something to be there, from the ground up. But again, guys, we had an Arena Football League team come through here called the Valor, and I think they drew like 15,000 people their first game, and then it all went away immediately. Like, it just didn't have the staying power. It's great. Like, you could be a flash in the pan, everybody likes something new, but you got to give them a product that they're going to continue to be entertained by. I think the Defenders are doing that. And it also helped. They were undefeated at home. I mean, they played really well at home, and the Redskins are terrible at home and lose every game they play at home. There is no home field advantage. So it felt very refreshing to be in a building where you are being rewarded by the team that you're coming to pay to see with a victory. I mean, that's a very positive thing.
Awesome, man. Well, we appreciate you joining us here talking about that DC fan experience. We know you set the tone that week one. We look forward to you wielding that shield plenty more in season 2, and we'll talk to you down the road.
I'm excited. Thanks, guys. I'm looking forward to season 2. I can't wait. Appreciate you having me on.
Thanks to Chad Dukes for joining us and talking about being a DC Defenders fan. And really the thing I learned actually out of that, Bryant, was that it's in DC, like in LA, and like in some other cities as well, probably Tampa, I would assume. The fact that these are transient cities, as he called them, not a lot of fans of the same team for at least football. But when it comes to the XFL, you saw a lot of people from different walks of life, different fandoms in other leagues coming together for the very first time, which is a very special thing to think about. And I mean, you experienced that in LA, and I was kind of surprised to hear that happening in DC as well.
Well, I brought it up in the interview, and Alan, I tell you every once in a while, man, just listen to me because I have some smart things to say. To have a team that everyone in your city can cheer for, because everyone in that city that's living there at that moment in time, everyone that was in their home the first weekend of February, second weekend of February, now has a football team to cheer for in that city. And I'm happy that the LA Wildcats, the DC Defenders, Tampa Bay Vipers, all those teams have something to unite with, and that's an XFL team.
Pretty cool. Thanks to Chad Dukes again for joining us. We're looking forward to speaking to more representatives of the fandoms of each XFL team. It's been a lot of fun there, dinking and dunking around the fans' experiences lately, and we'll see what we come up with on the next program, Brian. But we got to scoot along here, and we need to talk about all this player movement because players are signing with some NFL teams from the XFL. What an opportunity they had starting in late 2019, going into these camps. They were, of course, looking to make some money playing football. It's the American dream, and now some of them are signing awesome contracts in the NFL. We need to discuss the latest there in this episode's Cover 2.
That throw was unbelievable.
Yeah, all those unbelievable throws from P.J. Walker got him a pretty nice contract in Carolina. Bryant, we touched upon that a little bit last episode, but now some more players are joining him and Jordan Ta'amu and Dietrich Nichols in making the step to the NFL from the XFL. We've got a pretty awesome list of players here to get into. First up, I have to mention that I am a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and seeing how many XFL players the Steelers have signed has me
You think they're looking for
I'm just very excited to go to training camp to see these guys in action. Like I said, we're going to be following these year one XFL players for their entire careers. They are XFL guys for life. And starting with Savon Walker, the defensive lineman from the Guardians, sack leader, he gets signed by the Steelers, Bryant. Jerron Jones, the offensive lineman from the Guardians, also signed by the Steelers. And then right before we started recording tonight, Christian Kuntz, long snapper, signed by the Steelers as well. In addition to 𝐬𝐸 𝐤𝐚𝐥, the defensive back from the Defenders, also signed to Pittsburgh. So that training camp in Latrobe for the Steelers going to be riddled with XFL players for me to go say what up to and maybe shake some hands and reminisce about these amazing 5 weeks we all spent together in the XFL.
When your time goes, you got to remember maybe some of these players you saw in Houston, Alan, as well, right, when we were down there in Houston for the training camp. So training camp to training camp, only a few players, maybe and people, I guess in general, yourself included, will be at both.
And let me just say, so hyped for Savon Walker joining the Steelers. The Steelers lost a nose tackle in Javon Hargrave, and now they pick up a guy like this that who knows how high up the depth chart the XFL sack leader can go in Pittsburgh. That's going to be fascinating as fans to keep track of. But I have a feeling the guy that you're most hyped about getting a NFL contract was the tight end, all 6'8" of him, Donald Parham, with the Los Angeles Chargers. Are you switching from Rams fandom to Chargers fandom?
Hold on. This is Donald Parham, tight end.
From Stetson.
In
Florida.
In Florida.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And now you're a Chargers fan, right?
LA Superchargers. Have you seen the LA Rams logo? I might be at this point as well.
You might have to.
That's one of the exciting ones that I just like watching him play, though. Like, forget the fact that I was spot on about him, that I was right about every single one of his things, that you had to look at everything about him. Forget about all that stuff.
You're really
forget about all that.
You went out on a limb.
Yeah.
You went and saw a 6'8" tight end play in training camp, and you were like, he's gonna be good here. Whoa!
And I told everybody to watch out for him. Don't forget about all that stuff. The fact that he was just exciting to see. He's a young guy, 22 years old. I think we talked about right before the show started, Alan. He's got a 2-year deal with the Chargers. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch him catch passes from whoever's throwing him passes.
That's for sure. We'll see what's happening in Los Angeles with Donald Parham and his quarterback situation. But that tight end, man, he made our top 5 offensive players list. And that position, I think nowadays, is more valuable than ever, and those skills he has are unique. So great signing, I think, there. Another tight end from the XFL, 𝐷𝐸 goes from the Defenders to the Atlanta Falcons, and he was all over the place for the Defenders in terms of just being in the right place at the right time, scoring touchdowns. He really did whatever they needed him to do for Pep Hamilton's offense. And I think we haven't hit the playmaker for the Houston Roughnecks on defense, DeMarcus Gates going to the Minnesota Vikings. And I think I read somewhere that he grew up a Vikings fan. So that's just extra special. Still a young player. I'm talking about guys like him and Donald Parham, guys in their prime or just about to hit their prime. And tons of career left and awesome opportunity now to make the jump here. And another long snapper, can't forget him, Nick Moore, Vipers to the Ravens. And then the last one I have here on the list, Brian, unless any more came in since I've been yammering here, Drevon Askew-Henry from the Guardians to the Giants, stays in New York, a Pittsburgh kid who, if you follow high school football around here like we do, known about him forever, is a baller.
All the people that listen to this show that follow Pittsburgh high school football.
Lots, the Whippeal, all the best players. Everyone knows. Come on.
All the people that listen to this show that follow Pittsburgh high school football.
Absolutely. They're out there. They'll hit you up at XFL Show, all my Whippeal fans. Askew-Henry, though, signing with the Giants. Guy who has been mentored by Darrelle Revis. Another fascinating career to keep an eye on. And who knows, maybe these guys end up back in the XFL. That could very well happen. But you got to wish them luck and hope for the best and hope they make a ton of money and succeed playing the game of football. And a lot of these guys, I think, have that potential, especially when you're talking about Savon Walker, Donald Parham, DeMarcus Gates. Those guys were special players in the XFL, Bryant.
When their success, like I've said before many times, is going to pave the way for other players to take the chance on the XFL to hope to get that one more chance in the NFL. So I'm hoping for success of all these players that are signing in the XFL, because if they do well, players will see that if I play in the XFL, I have a chance to come back and do the same thing as those other players. So good luck to all these players. I'm sure this list will keep growing, Alan. We're going to be talking about it for the next month or so. Times are weird right now in all of sports and all over the world. So it's good to see some players getting signed, and we'll see as many more do come kickoff right before training camp.
Yeah.
What do you have? 90 some? There are 93 players at training camp, I think is what the
there's going
numbers.
to be a ton of guys there, and they're going to be running around, and half of them are in Latrobe for the Steelers for training camp for sure. Now let's move to part 2 of the cover too, because this is pretty cool, and we don't have time to go through all the brackets, Bryant, but each team has their best moments brackets up, and we already did our top 5 countdown of the best XFL moments overall. They're going team by team into brackets in a team phase over the weekend. We'll see where that expands to, but highly recommend everyone going to XFL.com, checking these out, and voting, because the polls are open, aren't they?
Yes, they are open, I believe, all weekend long. I think they're through the first 2 or 3 rounds at this point, if you're listening to this show right now. But yeah, it's pretty cool to see all these different moments, and it kind of, even if you're not voting, even if you're not participating, just to go through these brackets and like read and see, oh man, I remember that moment, or I remember this moment. It's pretty cool. I think I would hope that at the end of this, Alan, they're going to have like an 8-team best moment bracket for each one,
From
right?
each team, yeah.
Final winner.
We'll see what happens. Yeah, I'm looking at theirs right now. I mean, you got the first TD is going to be tough to beat, I think, for them. New York, just to throw another one out there, they've got the fumble return versus Tampa Bay for Jamar Summers, I think, might be what I'm voting for there. But they got a bunch to choose from. These are tough decisions. I'm actually quite impressed. Credit to all the team social media people who put these together and seeded them as well. Because imagine if we did our moments countdown and we had to do seeding, we would have never even done the show with all the arguing we went through. So that is a tough thing to do, because we kind of went through that already, Bryant.
Well, who is the committee that put the seating together? I'd like to have a word with them on how this was all put together. Maybe we could sit down with someone and talk about what went through the seating process.
Yes, that'd be interesting to know. I hope it wasn't just random. We'll see what they did. But those are live up through the weekend, I believe, right? The team phase for voting will end on Sunday, and you could vote for every team.
Yes, correct.
Awesome. So check that out if you're looking for something to do that's XFL-oriented. Besides listening to the show, of course, over the weekend, check it out. It is the best moments bracket for each team. And, yeah, I mean, Bryant, I'm pretty excited for this. I'm excited to see where that transitions to, like you said. And who knows what other kind of fun social media stuff we'll be getting into over the course of this long off season we're on. Remember, we're on the road to 2021 now. A little bit early, but we're here and we're chugging along at a good, crisp pace. You're good with road trips, Bryant. You did a 2-year road trip. This is going to be a cinch, right? You're good? You're still good?
It'll be easy, Alan. A lot of things will be happening on social media to keep you entertained. But we're going to bring you maybe one of the better ones, and that's hashtag XFL Show Awards.
Yes, sir. Hashtag XFL Show Awards. And that is where we're going to next. We are going to be counting down from 5 to 1 the best defensive players of the season. That was cut short, but still, we've identified them, and we are prepared to reveal the number 1 defensive player of the season, and that is coming up here in just a hot second. But real quick, Bryant, XFLshop.com on fire this week. An amazing deal, and that's the place to get authentic XFL gear. And I believe there was, a 30% off deal going, right? You ordered You ordered half the items that were available online, you told me?
A little more than half, but that's neither here or there. If you go online right now, catch it before it goes away, 30% off your entire purchase. Check that out, XFLshop.com.
Yes, they have everything you need. Everything. New items, too. Check it out. And then get ready for 2021. And, I mean, come on. They've got everything. I want these little sweatpants. I got to pull the trigger, Bryant. But, I've been...
Pull it.
I Well,
Look,
these
stop.
times.
Don't take the trip to the fridge and buy something on XFLshop.com while you're stuck at home.
At these times, it's like I go to buy one thing on like XFL Shop or like something for like the office, and then I'm like, I should just buy food or paper towels. Be a responsible adult for some reason. I don't know why. But XFLshop.com, definitely don't do what I'm doing. Go there and buy up the whole store. Like Bryant, team jerseys and hats, all of it there on XFLshop.com. Okay, are you ready to count it down? Bryant, are you ready? Are we set? Do we have everything we need?
I am ready.
I am ready. And I am excited to see who comes up number one here. Well, I know who comes up number one, but I'm excited to see what people say to number one. I have a feeling we're going to get a lot more blowback on this list than we did from offense, and this is the fun of it all. So let's get right into it. It is the top 5 XFL defensive players of 2020, culminating with your defensive player of the year in this hot read.
On the ground again, this time the Guardians bring pressure, and Christian Michael swallowed by Bunmi Rotimi.
Not an easy task. Guardians rush 4, they get pressure. Murray stands in. Swift, ball is on the ground, it is loose. And it looks like Tampa Bay comes back with the ball, but Bunmi Rotimi with the strip sack.
All right, number 5, Bryant. Who wants to say his name first? Bunmi Rotimi of the New York Guardians. The defensive lineman was, I think, nonstop. He was like the motor of this defense to me, Bryant. Week 1, he came out, really a dominating effort against the Tampa Bay Vipers, and it was nonstop. He was one of the guys they could rely on all season long on a defense filled with great players. This was a guy that I think was maybe the most consistent player on the defense, second in the league in quarterback hits, super fun to watch, super disruptive, and like I said, that week 1 performance, I just love this piece of audio we've had since then because he called it one of the best games he's ever played, and I feel like he just picked up from there and got better all season long. It was a pleasure to watch him play.
It was probably one of the best games that I've put out in my whole career playing football, but it's mostly a testament to the guys that I had around me because, I'm out there doing my thing, and it didn't even feel like all that was happening. I had guys around me making all sorts of plays.
All kinds of plays. He had a lot of guys around him making plays, but he made them too.
We was clogging up the middle, and he did it well. We went back and watched a lot of his play. He did his job, and he was a lot of fun to watch, and someone you had to account for on that defensive line with 1, 2 people sometimes weren't enough. Alan, you mentioned he was second in the league with quarterback hits with 5. He also had 4 tackles for loss, a sack to throw in there, and 25 combined tackles. Someone you had to account for if you were trying to run the ball or pass the ball. It seemed like he was always the second or third person there to tackle someone if that ball was caught within a 15-yard radius of him.
Bunmi Rotimi of the New York Guardians makes it onto our top defensive players list at number 5 here, and we need to now go to the next guy who is, always right next to Bunmi Rotimi.
The midway point of this fourth quarter. Here comes the pressure on Nelson, and he's caught in the backfield. Nowhere to go, 𝐬𝐳 Walker.
New York rushing 4. Johnson trying to escape, and he'll be sacked. 𝐬𝐳 Walker, the sack for the Guardians.
Number 4, 𝐬𝐳 Walker, the leader in sacks in the XFL, Bryant. Now, we just talked about how he is signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but during his XFL tenure, this guy was the most vicious and vile and beastly cat getting after quarterbacks if Rotimi was the motor of the Guardians defense, then I would probably call Walker the Rancor. Just the beast that was kept in the wings, waiting for those moments that they needed him most, and he came out there for maximum punishment. Nobody affected quarterbacks more than Savon Walker in this season. And the Guardians, look at them. What a defense. 2 guys in our top 5. I think rightfully so.
Do you think Savon Walker had like a start on the opposite side of the neutral zone pass? Because if you really look at his stats, 5 tackles for loss, 9 QB hits, 4.5 sacks. I mean, that man spent more time in the backfield than the team's running back. It was insane to see this man play. Alan, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be in for one hell of a good player with Savon Walker back there. It was a lot of fun to see him play. Unfortunately, he's gone to the NFL. I get it. But one of the great players, at least on the defensive side, for the New York Guardians and in the XFL, number 4.
Most sacks, most quarterback hits. He was everywhere.
So I'm telling you, he was in the backfield. I don't think they saw him. They let him line up behind the center.
Great 5 weeks for him and Bunmi Rotimi. That Guardians defensive line, oh man, I could only imagine what they would have done later in the season with those 2 guys. And congrats to them for making our list, because we love watching them play. And I'm happy I got to go to a couple of their games and see them in person. Very fun football players. It's a junkie for great defensive line play, Bryant. 2 of the best right there. But I got to let the cat out of the bag. Those are the only defensive linemen making the rest of the list. We're going to go a little bit to in the defensive backfield here coming up, further and further back. Let's start with number 3.
Take that all day long. It's a one-man progression, and he hit him for a first down.
On the keeper, Flowers caught the backfield. Great job, Steven Johnson, their leading tackler in week 1. Still looking to get it to the 40. Out of the backfield, absolutely nowhere to go. Steven Johnson wrapping up Cameron Artis-Payne almost as quickly as he got the football.
When I say tick, tick, y'all say boom. Tick, tick, boom. Tick, tick, boom. All day.
All day, Steven Johnson.
All day.
The heart and soul of the Seattle Dragons. I mean, not just their defense. I think he was that team. He was the guy who you could see took the bull by the horns, made it known that this guy, he was a leader. He was going to be vocal.
The Dragons have horns?
Dragon by the tail?
Maybe.
Whatever.
Okay, there you go. I like that. We'll go with that.
Either way, Steven Johnson was the Seattle Dragons, at least to me, Bryant. I mean, he was the quintessential linebacker, leader on the defense, the guy with the helmet, getting the play calls, making sure everybody was on the same page. And while that defense as a collective struggled at times, Steven Johnson did everything for them that he possibly could. Most tackles in the XFL. I mean, you couldn't ask more from a linebacker in terms of being the leader of a defense, I think. And he was that all XFL, if you ask me, number 3 on our list.
Yeah, football is a team sport, but when you look at individuals as players who could do what they're supposed to do, Steven Johnson did that and more all over that field. We played 2 of his highlights to start this number 3, but really the highlights were endless for this man. 48 combined tackles, Alan, like you said, to lead the league, and then 6 tackles for loss. And he was defending passes back there too whenever he could. He was an all-around great player for the Seattle Dragons, an all-around great player in the XFL, and he's number 3 on our list.
So the Dragons get some representation on one of our top 5 countdowns here finally, Bryant. Now let's see which team's represented for number 2. Our runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year is going to a player from the team that was in first place all year.
Interesting first time all day. We got a tight end and a 3-point stance.
Instead, they get it to Nagel, and that play is not going to go anywhere. As a matter of fact, it's picked off. What? It never hit the ground. And Gates has it for Houston.
Hurry, son! Got to throw here, 2nd and 13. Cornelius intercepted, picked off. DeMarcus Gates at Ole Miss with the interception.
Okay, now that was an interception, but that's not what we're here to argue, Bryant. DeMarcus Gates just made plays after plays, interceptions or fumble recoveries, but he had 3 fumble recoveries in 5 weeks. I mean, I would say a top 5 playmaker, offense or defense in the XFL. Twice this guy had a turnover to seal victories for his team. He was everywhere. He got kicked out of a game for some reason that I still don't understand why, but that's neither here nor there. The fact is he was making plays nearly every single week as the best, I think, among great players on that Houston Roughnecks defense, for my money, the best player of the bunch.
Alan, it was hard not to put him at number 1. Another Roughnecks debate, I guess, what you could put at number 1. But if you think about what he was able to accomplish, what he did, he had 2 game-clinching interceptions. I'll give you the interception in that Texas throwdown in the final 2 minutes of games in weeks 3 and 4. An all-around defensive star in this league, and it's, he's going to be giving the Miami Vikings a run for a starting spot there, I believe.
Did you say the Miami Vikings?
Did I say the Miami Vikings?
I think you just said the Miami Vikings. Man, you haven't watched sports in a long time.
What is sports?
It's all right. It's all right. We're here doing our countdown, Bryant, and we're at the end of it. So
Minnesota
are you ready?
Vikings.
Minnesota
Yes.
Vikings. He's the new man on the Minnesota Vikings. Man, I had to do it. Not number 1. He's the runner-up. Number 1 on our countdown, and taking home the imaginary hardware that we have yet to decide upon what we're going to send these players. Maybe, honey, can you make some cookies? Well, we'll figure it out. But this next guy deserves something for what he did this year for his team on defense. He is our Defensive Player of the Year, number 1 on this countdown, and he's soaring in with a loud caw-caw.
EJ Bibbs, the lead blocker. And the ground game snuffed. Tim Cook nowhere to go. Dexter McCoy and Will Hill to stop.
Daniels over the middle, intercepted. Will Hill with the pick.
Now, what do you want to say about the leader of the best defense in the XFL, Bryant? What do you want to say about Will Hill that we can say here? I mean, the fact that he was getting tackles for loss, getting interceptions, leading the defense, making plays he made plays in the backfield and in the secondary as a safety, doing it all over the field. Really, I think was what stood out for me. Why I was totally behind your suggestion that he was number 1.
Well, the reason I think he was number 1 was just for the reason you said. He was all over the place as a safety. You couldn't ask for more than what he was giving this team. You look at the tackles, 33 tackles, 3 QB hits, no sacks, but 4 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, 2 passes defended. I mean, this man did everything, and he put
one mean ankle drag that I've never seen before in a game. It was beautiful. Probably illegal, but still a moment.
Well, and then he also took the young Kenny Robinson under his wing, no pun intended, and it showed him what it's like to be a professional football player. And not to mention, Alan, and mainly the reason why I picked him as number 1 is because in our simulated draft back in October of last year, I picked him as my number 1 pick in that draft.
I mean, he was the most
the winner of the
reliable player this week. From the jump. This guy came in ready. I mean, we talked about how he was killing it in the AAF. This is a guy with a lot of pro football experience, like you said, mentoring Kenny Robinson. He's been around the block and hadn't lost a step in the XFL.
He looked great.
And he's our number 1 player on defense for the season, our Defensive Player of the Year. As a safety, I was telling you, if I'm going to give it to a safety, he better have been all over the place doing special things and being a leader. And that's what watching the tape from Will Hill, watching it back, just to double check that I was making the right choice here, Bryant. Check those boxes. Best player on defense this season. It was very close. I could have made the argument for Gates or Johnson, but man, what Will Hill did from the safety position on the best defense in the XFL. Can't stress that enough. This team did not give up many points or yards. This is a team that they lost their last game we saw them in, Bryant, but I told you that I was St. Louis all the way.
It wasn't the defense's fault.
What I was projecting for Eastern champions, and Will Hill a big part of that, maybe the biggest part of that, and for that he gets our Defensive Player of the Year.
It was a lot of fun to watch him play. It was a lot of fun to watch the Battlehawks play. So congrats to Will Hill for getting our most prestigious, first ever Defensive Player of the Year award from hashtag XFL Show Awards.
Hashtag XFL Show Awards. That's hashtag XFL Show Awards whenever you hit the Twitter talking XFL. And if you're talking defense, you better wear your shades like Jerry Glanville, which I think I'm going to do the rest of this show because we have no time left, Brian.
Don't hit anything you're not supposed to. Don't hit.
Where am I? Where's the blue? They're blue blockers. I can't handle it. That does it though for this episode, Bryant. A lot of fun we just had. I enjoy these countdowns, and we've got more of them coming up.
We got more coming up on. We have a Rookie of the Year, which I'm really excited about. We have Coach of the Year, MVP as well. We might even go through a countdown of Mr. XFL. I don't know. We'll have to see about that one. But some many awards will be coming the next few weeks here on the XFL show.
Yes, so keep it locked for award season here on This is the XFL show. That is the hashtag XFL show awards at XFL show. The number to call. Give us your top 5 defensive players, offensive players, whatever. Any top 5.
Top 5 anything. We also did the top 5 moments.
Yes, 724-565-4XFL. And we'd love to hear your top 5. Top 5s are very fun. I can't go to the barber shop right now, Brian, and talk to my barber about my top 5 anything. It's one of my favorite things to do. So you got to do it here.
Your mom has cut your hair since you were 10 years old.
Yeah, but not since we live on opposite ends of the country. So don't tell her I go to a barber. She'd be very upset and jealous. Would she expect me to just grow my hair till I see her every few months? Sorry.
If I know your mom, she says yes to that question, Alan. Make sure you follow us on all social media.
She doesn't talk top 5s with me either. Come on.
At XFL Show on Twitter. Remember at hashtag XFL Show Awards if you want to talk about what we're talking about right now this season with our top 5 countdowns. Subscribe and listen. Tell your friends about us. We're here every single Tuesday morning, Friday morning on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your preferred podcast app. Or you can watch us. Hi, Mom. On XFL.com or YouTube.com/XFL, the official YouTube page of the XFL.
Yes, sir. And that does it for another countdown. We got more of them coming up. We're going to keep track of these XFL players signing with the NFL. And we'll have plenty more to talk about on that next episode. So thanks to everybody for watching on XFL YouTube, checking out the blogs on XFL.com, and, of course, subscribing to the podcast on your favorite podcast app. All right, Bryant, time to start arguing about the next countdown. Let's get to work. I'll see you for the next recording for our Tuesday morning show. For everybody else, thank you. For Bryant, I'm Alan. This is the XFL show. Remember, they're listening.